solve problems. But the smartest people I know aren't defined by IQ. They're defined by EQ, emotional intelligence, especially when it comes to dealing with toxic people. Now, toxic people, they're everywhere. They gossip, they manipulate, they drain energy from the room, and here's the thing, we can't always avoid them. Some of them might be colleagues, friends, even family. But here's what smart people do differently. They don't try to win. They don't fight fire with fire, because smart people understand something very powerful. You don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. Instead, they set boundaries, clear, calm, non-negotiable boundaries, not out of anger, but out of self-respect. They don't raise their voice. They raise their standards. They also recognize that not everyone deserves access to their energy. See, a smart person knows their energy is their currency. And just like you wouldn't throw money into a fire, they don't throw their time or attention into drama. Now, here's the twist. Smart people also lead with empathy. They understand that toxicity usually comes from pain, insecurity, fear. That doesn't mean they excuse the behavior, but they don't take it personally either. They depersonalize it. That's emotional maturity. And sometimes the smartest thing they do, they walk away, not in anger, not in bitterness, but with clarity, because they know peace is more valuable than proving a point. So the next time you're faced with someone toxic, don't ask asterisk, how do I beat them? Asterisk, ask instead asterisk, how do I protect what matters most? My values, my peace, my purpose. Asterisk, because smart people don't just react, they respond. And that, more than anything else, is true intelligence in action. We often associate intelligence with sharp thinking, quick answers, and technical mastery. But in the real world, where emotions, relationships, and conflicts shape our daily experience, emotional intelligence stands out as the true marker of wisdom. Smart people understand that navigating human interactions, especially with toxic individuals, demands far more than clever comebacks or mental agility. It requires emotional depth, self-awareness, and restraint. When confronted with toxic behavior, be it manipulation, passive aggressiveness, or outright hostility, our instinct is often to react. We want to correct, to confront, or to defend ourselves. But smart individuals don't rush into emotional warfare. They pause, they listen not just to words, but to tone, context, and intention. They realize that how someone behaves is more about asterisk them asterisk than it is about asterisk us asterisk. That space between stimulus and response, that pause is where emotional intelligence lies. Smart people recognize that emotional intelligence begins with self-regulation. They know that letting someone else control your emotions is giving away your power. When someone tries to provoke or undermine them, they don't bite. They stay grounded, not because they're weak, but because they're strong enough to maintain their center. It's not about being passive, it's about being purposeful. Empathy also plays a crucial role. Emotionally intelligent people try to understand where toxicity comes from. They don't justify bad behavior, but they do seek to understand it. Maybe the person is acting from fear, insecurity, or past trauma. That insight creates distance, not necessarily physical, but emotional. It allows them to stay compassionate without getting entangled. They're not easily offended because they don't carry everything personally. This ability to separate their self-worth from someone else's chaos is a quiet kind of strength. Emotionally intelligent people are also masters of choosing their battles. They don't feel the need to prove a point every time. They ask themselves, is this worth my energy? Often, it's not. That doesn't mean they avoid accountability or difficult conversations. It means they choose when, where, and how to engage with clarity and purpose. They're not reactive, they're responsive. Finally, emotional intelligence helps them keep perspective. Toxic people can sometimes distort reality, make others doubt themselves, or create confusion. But smart people stay anchored to their values. They reflect, they seek counsel if needed. They don't let toxicity define the atmosphere. They bring their own emotional climate wherever they go. So when we say smart people treat toxic people differently, we're really saying that emotionally intelligent people respond with intention. They don't just know more, they feel more, sense more, and choose better. And in that choice lies the real intelligence, the kind that creates peace rather than conflict, growth rather than damage. When smart people encounter toxic behavior, their first instinct isn't to fight back or prove a point. Instead, they draw a clear line, not out of spite or ego, but from a place of clarity and self-respect. Boundaries are their tool of choice, not battles, and that's a crucial distinction. While some may jump into confrontation trying to win against toxicity, smart individuals know that real power lies in choosing not to participate in the chaos. Boundaries are often misunderstood. Some people think setting a boundary is about creating distance or cutting someone off entirely. But in reality, boundaries are simply the rules we create to protect our peace and uphold our values. They are statements of what we will and will not allow into our lives. Smart people recognize that without boundaries, we end up absorbing other people's dysfunction. And toxic individuals often look for those without boundaries. They push, test, manipulate, and provoke. But a person with strong self-awareness doesn't fall into that trap. They are kind but firm. They are clear but respectful. Setting a boundary doesn't always mean confrontation. Sometimes it's as simple as choosing silence over reaction, choosing not to answer that message, choosing to leave the room, the group chat, or the situation when the energy turns negative. These are quiet acts of courage. Smart people know they don't owe anyone access to their emotions, their time, or their energy. They understand that no is a full sentence. And most importantly, they don't feel guilty about protecting themselves. What makes these boundaries so powerful is the intention behind them. It's not about punishment, it's about preservation. Preservation of mental health, emotional balance, and personal integrity. Toxic people often thrive on chaos, conflict, and emotional entanglement. Boundaries take away their oxygen. It's not dramatic, it's not loud. It's simply a refusal to play the game, and even when a boundary is tested, smart people don't over-explain or justify. They know that a person who respects you won't need a lengthy explanation. And someone who doesn't won't be satisfied with one anyway, so they stay calm, they stay consistent, and over time, the message becomes clear. This is not a person who can be manipulated. In a world where many people are reactive, trying to match energy with energy, smart people choose to respond with stability. They don't let toxicity pull them off course. They don't lose themselves trying to save or change someone who isn't willing to change. Instead, they draw the line, firm, quiet, and non-negotiable, because to them, setting boundaries isn't an act of hostility, it's an act of wisdom. It's saying, I value myself enough to protect my peace, and I respect you enough to do it without hostility. That's not weakness. That's strength, elevated by intention. Smart people treat their energy like it's currency, because it is, and just like with money, they don't spend it carelessly. They know that every interaction, every conversation, every thought costs something. And when it comes to toxic people, the cost is often too high. Toxic individuals are masters at consuming energy. They create drama, provoke emotional responses, and pull people into their personal storms. They thrive on attention, especially negative attention, because it gives them a sense of control or significance. But emotionally intelligent people see this for what it is. They know that just because someone is loud, demanding, or dramatic doesn't mean they deserve a response. And just because someone throws chaos their way doesn't mean they have to catch it. So instead of reacting to every insult or manipulation, smart people make a deliberate choice. Asterisk, they protect their energy. Asterisk, they ask themselves, is this worth it? And more often than not, the answer is no. They're not trying to win an argument or outwit the other person. They're trying to stay focused on what truly matters: growth, peace, purpose, and relationships that are mutual and respectful. Protecting energy isn't about being cold or distant. It's about being intentional. Smart people decide where to invest their emotional bandwidth. They know some people add value to their life, while others constantly take from it. And just like a good investor, They don't keep pouring into something that never yields a return. They're also mindful of the environments they allow themselves to be in. If a space, be it physical, digital, or emotional, is consistently draining, they leave it. If a conversation starts to spiral into gossip, blame, or passive aggression, they disengage. This doesn't mean they're rude. It means they've learned that peace is too precious to compromise. One of the most powerful things they do is conserve energy by choosing their focus. Instead of spending hours thinking about what a toxic person said or did, they redirect that focus to their goals, their values, their community. They don't replay negative scenarios in their heads. They don't carry conversations home with them. They have a kind of mental hygiene. They clean out what doesn't serve them. And perhaps most importantly, smart people don't allow toxic people to live rent-free in their minds. They understand that attention is energy. And by withholding that attention, by not feeding the fire, they reclaim their power. It's not always easy. It takes discipline. It takes maturity. But it's what separates those who constantly feel depleted from those who stay grounded. Because at the end of the day, being smart isn't just about knowing what to do. It's about knowing what not asterisk to give your energy to. Smart people understand something most overlook. Toxic behavior is often a symptom, not the root. It usually stems from pain, insecurity, or fear. This doesn't excuse the behavior, but it does explain it. And when you understand something, you gain the power to respond rather than react. That's why smart people lead with empathy not asterisk to enable toxicity, but to navigate it without becoming consumed by it. Empathy is often misunderstood. It doesn't mean you allow people to mistreat you. It doesn't mean you make excuses for someone's bad behavior. It simply means you try to see beyond the behavior, to understand why it's happening. When someone is consistently critical, manipulative, or aggressive, a smart person doesn't jump to anger. They ask, what's behind this? Is it fear, insecurity, a learned pattern from the past? By doing this, they create emotional distance. They're not absorbing the behavior, they're observing it. This perspective is powerful because it helps them stay calm. They don't personalize the toxic behavior. They contextualize it. Instead of thinking, what did I do to deserve this? They think, what must this person be carrying to act this way? That shift keeps them from internalizing negativity. But here's the key. While they understand the source of toxic behavior, they don't let it slide. Empathy doesn't mean tolerating mistreatment. Smart people have a clear inner line. I can feel for you, but I won't sacrifice myself for you. They're compassionate, but they're not naive. They might choose to offer help, to listen, or to support from a distance, but only if it doesn't come at the cost of their own well-being. They also recognize the pattern. If someone's behavior is consistently toxic, regardless of circumstances, a smart person doesn't keep trying to fix them. They understand that healing is a personal journey. You can offer kindness, but you can't carry someone else's growth. And so, they let go of the need to change or rescue the other person. Sometimes, empathy means walking away quietly with no bitterness. Not because they don't care, but because they care enough about themselves to stop absorbing pain that isn't theirs to carry. That takes strength. It takes clarity. It takes maturity. Ultimately, smart people know that empathy is a lens, not a leash. It helps them see clearly, without getting pulled into dysfunction. They can recognize the human behind the behavior, while still choosing to protect their space. That's the balance. That's the wisdom. So yes, they lead with empathy, but always with boundaries, and in doing so, they model something powerful. It's possible to be kind without being a doormat, to be understanding without being taken advantage of, to care without losing yourself. When dealing with toxic people, one of the smartest things emotionally intelligent individuals do is choose detachment over reaction. They understand that reacting impulsively to negativity gives the other person control, not just over the situation, but over their emotions. So instead of getting pulled into the emotional chaos, they stay steady. They respond, not react, and that single choice can change everything. Detachment doesn't mean indifference. It doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care enough about your emotional stability to protect it. When someone lashes out, manipulates, or tries to provoke you, the emotionally mature response isn't to fight back, it's to stay rooted in your values. Smart people ask themselves, what kind of person do I want to be in this moment? Not, how do I win this argument? They recognize the trap of emotional reactivity. Toxic people often thrive on creating emotional turbulence. They poke, prod, and press buttons to get a rise. When you react, you give them what they're looking for: validation, control, or attention. But when you detach, when you maintain your calm and refuse to be triggered, you shift the dynamic entirely. You take back your power. Smart people have the self-awareness to know when they're being pulled into a reactive state. They pause, they breathe. They ask themselves, is this conversation productive, or is it just noise? This brief moment of reflection often gives them the clarity to walk away or respond with calm assertiveness. And that pause, that space between stimulus and response, is where emotional freedom lives. Detachment also means refusing to take things personally. When a toxic person attacks your character, criticizes you unfairly, or plays mind games, it's easy to question yourself. But emotionally intelligent people understand people project. Often, what someone says about you says more about them than it ever will about you, so they don't internalize the drama. They don't absorb the poison. Instead of reacting to every jab or slight, they respond with intention, or not at all. Silence, after all, is a powerful answer. It communicates strength, boundaries, and restraint. It says, I'm not going to lower myself to meet your energy. And often, that silence says more than any clever comeback ever could. This kind of detachment takes practice. It takes emotional maturity, but it's not coldness. It's clarity. It's the ability to stay connected to your values in the face of provocation. To choose your peace over your pride, that's not weakness. That's wisdom in action. In the end, smart people don't let others hijack their emotions. They don't play the game. They don't get dragged into unnecessary drama. They observe, they assess, and they respond from a grounded place. That's the difference between someone who survives toxicity and someone who transcends it. Smart people understand that peace is not something you find, it's something you protect. In a world full of noise, tension, and ego-driven conflict, peace becomes a kind of personal success. And when it comes to dealing with toxic people, the wisest decision they often make is to walk away, not out of weakness, but out of strength. They choose peace because they understand it's more valuable than being right, more important than winning, and more fulfilling than proving a point. There's a quiet kind of power in letting go. Smart people know that you don't always need to explain, argue, or justify your departure from a toxic situation. You don't have to prove that someone was wrong or make them understand your perspective. Why? Because understanding isn't the goal, clarity is. And once they're clear that a relationship, conversation, or environment is costing more than it's giving, they make a calm exit. No drama, no explosion. Just a decision to choose peace over chaos. This kind of choice is often misunderstood. To some, walking away looks like surrender. But to those who have done the inner work, it's the ultimate form of self-respect. It means you've stopped needing validation from someone who thrives on keeping you unsettled. It means you've decided your well-being matters more than their approval, and that's a powerful shift. Smart people don't carry resentment when they walk away. They carry wisdom. They reflect, they learn, and they move forward. They don't leave with bitterness because they know that holding onto anger only keeps them tied to the very thing they're trying to release. Letting go is not just about leaving the person. It's about leaving behind the need to fix, control, or be understood by someone who isn't willing to meet you halfway. And peace doesn't mean passivity. It doesn't mean avoiding all confrontation or difficulty. It means choosing your battles with care. It means prioritizing harmony, not avoidance, resolution, not resentment. Smart people will stand up for themselves when it matters, but they don't stay in fights that go nowhere. They've learned that sometimes the best way to win is not to play. What they protect is not just quiet, but inner alignment, a sense of integrity, a commitment to live in a way that reflects their values. And if someone continually threatens that alignment with manipulation, negativity, or emotional volatility, they don't make excuses, they make space, because peace isn't about the absence of conflict, it's about the presence of clarity. So when it's time, they walk away calmly, cleanly, without guilt, because they know the most important relationship they'll ever have is the one with themselves, and that relationship thrives in peace, not in proving a point.